الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله تبارك وتعالى فالق الإصباح وجعل الليل سكنا والشمس والقمر حسبانا ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم وهو الذي جعل لكم النجوم لتهتدوا بها في ظلمات البر والبحر قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يعلمون وهو الذي أنشأكم من نفس واحدة فمستقر ومستودع قد فصلنا الآيات لقوم يفقهون وهو الذي أنزل من السماء ماء فأخرجنا به نبات كل شيء فأخرجنا منه خضرا نخرج منه حبا متراكبا ومن النخل من طلعها قنوان دانية وجنات من أعناب والزيتون والرمان مشتبها وغير متشابه انظروا إلى ثمره إذا أثمر وينعه إن في ذلكم لآيات لقوم يؤمنون صدق الله العظيم اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما ذكره الذاكرون وصل على سيدنا مولانا محمد عدد ما غفل عن ذكره الغافلون اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك بعدد معلوماتك. Tonight inshallah we'll continue from ayah number 96 of Surah Al-An'am. First, the translation. He brings forth the living from the dead, and He is the one who brings forth the dead from the living. That is Allah. To where then are you being turned away by your desires? He is the one who causes the dawn to break. He has made the night for rest, and the sun and the moon for reckoning. This is a measure set by the Almighty, the All-Knowing. He is the one who made for you the stars so that you may be guided by them in darkness of the land and the sea. We have elaborated the signs for the people who know. He is the one who created you from one person. Then you have a place to dwell and a place to sojourn. We have elaborated the signs for the people who understand. He is the one who sent down water from the heavens. Then we brought forth with it vegetation of all kinds. Then from it we brought grains set upon one another. From the palm trees, from their spathes, come forth the low-hanging bunches. We produce vineyards, and the olive, and the pomegranate, either similar or not similar to each other. Look at its fruit when it bears fruit, and its ripening. Surely in all this there are signs for the people who believe. This is a translation from ayah number 96 to ayah number 99 of Surah Al-An'am. As it becomes clear from the translation that in these ayat, in these verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains His signs from different aspects and different angles. Ayah number 95 brought our attention to those signs which exist in the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in creating something from a grain and also something from a date seed. So a date seed is a very little thing. But from there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it split, and then there grows a tree which turns into a huge tree of dates. Likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who makes the grain split, and then from there the plant grows. So those were the signs from the ground. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is changing from ground, the signs from the ground to the space. So what first Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us think what is beneath us, what grows for us from the ground. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing our attention to what is happening in heavens, what is happening in space, and what are the signs in that for us to understand. With the end of each ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a statement like this: قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يَعْلَمُونَ. We elaborate these signs for those people who know. Or قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يَفْقَهُونَ. We elaborate these signs for those people who understand. Or قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. We elaborate these signs for those people who believe. So with the end of each verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a concluding statement by saying, we explain these signs for those people who know, for those people who understand, and for those people who believe. For those people who don't know, who don't understand, and who don't believe, these signs will not benefit them. They will never pay attention to that, and they will never learn a lesson, they will never heed. So let's look at some details of these signs. So the first, in ayah number 96, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالِقُ الْإِصْبَاحِ. Allah is the one who brings forth the dawn from the darkness. The word isbah is a reference to subh, morning. And faliq is a word that Allah used previously in the previous ayah as well. Inna Allah faliq. Allah is the one who makes it happen. So Allah is the one who brings forth a plant from a grain and a date tree from a seed. And then here in this ayah, Allah says, Faliqul Isbah. Inna Allah Faliqul Isbah. Allah is the one who brings morning from night. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away the light of sun, everything is dark. All of us are left in darkness, and then we need our electricity, we need our flashlights, we need our lanterns, we need any source of light that we can come up with. During the daytime, we don't need any of that because Allah is providing us with the light, with the biggest source of light, sun. So during the daytime, we don't need any light because Allah has put the sun out there, which is providing the light to us. When Allah takes away the light of sun from us, then we're left in darkness. And then we are in need of flashlights, we're in need of electricity, we are in need of lanterns, we are in need of source of lights. Because we are humans, we're not like animals. We cannot see when it's dark, especially when it's pitch dark. So we need some sort of light. Either it's moonlight that will help us see things to some extent, or a flashlight, or electricity, or street light, or some sort of light. We cannot live in complete darkness. If it was completely dark, we would not be able to survive. So the sun is there to sustain us in a way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the sun out there that is providing so many sources of sustenance to all of us, to all the human beings, and not just the human beings, but other forms of life that exist on this planet as well. Now, every night, a time comes when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already determined that this will be the time when darkness will begin to fade away and the light will begin to come in. The morning, the sunlight will begin to come in. And that's called subh. That's called morning. That's called the day, the dawn. So that happens early in the morning. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who makes it happen. If Allah decides one day that the sun will not rise, it will not rise. And it will happen. One day before the day of judgment, before the final hour, it will happen that the sun will not rise when it will be the time for the sun to rise. Instead, it will stay hidden, and when it is time for sunset to occur, it will rise from the west at that time. And that will be a major sign of the final hour. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that when that sign has appeared, that is also the beginning that the door of Tawbah is already closed. The door of Tawbah is open as of now, and it will remain open until this major sign of the final hour becomes clear. When this sign appears, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the door of Tawbah will be closed. So those people who will witness this and then make Tawbah, their Tawbah will not be valid, and their Tawbah will be of no benefit to them, because the time has already passed. It's too late. So according to the teachings of Islam, we have two definitions of subh. We have two mornings. There is the false morning and there is the true morning, or the false dawn and the true dawn. As-subh al-kadhib and as-subh al-sadiq. This is the term that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used. The false dawn and the true dawn. The false dawn appears slightly before the true dawn. How do you distinguish between a false dawn and true dawn? They're both, the light comes from the horizon in both cases. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained that in false dawn, what happens, the light appears on the horizon, but it appears vertically. It does not appear horizontally. So it goes up like this, not like that. And then it glows for a few minutes, and then it starts to go down, and then it dies. That light disappears completely. Then again it's dark. We don't get to see this because we live in cities, and there's already so much light pollution that we don't even get to see when the true dawn actually comes in. We only get to see it when we set the alarm clock for either 5:45 or 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and then when the alarm clock rings, then we realize, oh, okay, it's time for Fajr. But in those days, and even now, if you are not living in a city where there are street lights and other forms of light pollution, people actually see outside and they observe the beginning of time of Fajr, and then they start the Salah of Fajr. So during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is how they determine the timings of each Salah. Not just for the Fajr, but for Fajr, for Zuhr, for Asr, for Maghrib, for Isha. There's a different criteria for each and every single prayer. Fajr begins when this happens. Zuhr begins when this happens. Asr begins when this happens. And Maghrib begins when this happens. And Isha begins when this happens. There's a different criteria for each prayer. And with that, when that happens, then the time of that particular Salah begins. So with the time of Fajr, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when the false dawn occurs, so when you see the first light after the night, after the complete dark night, you will see a light appears vertically on the horizon. That light is not the true dawn, that's a false dawn. So after a few minutes it dies. That light goes away. Then after a few minutes, the actual dawn begins to break in. And that light slowly spreads, and it does not spread vertically, it spreads horizontally. And that is a sign that this is the beginning of true dawn, and the true dawn is a time for Salat al-Fajr. So if someone prays Salat al-Fajr at the time of false dawn, the Fajr time did not start, therefore the Fajr prayer was not considered valid. That was the time of Tahajjud. So the time of salah begins with the true dawn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear that Faliqul Isbah, it is Allah who brings the light from the darkness. No one else has the power to do that. No one else has any kind of formula that can bring the sun back. It is only Allah who brings the sun back. وَجَعَلَ اللَّيْلَ سَكَنًا. And Allah is the one who made the night a time to rest. So, if you want to rest, you need two things. You need a place to rest and you need a time to rest. If someone wants to set a time for rest on their own, it's very difficult. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala organized a circle of life. So during the daytime, during the daylight hours, we go to work. Majority of people, 90% of the world works in daylight time. And 90% of the world sleeps in nighttime. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who organized that circle. If there was no day or if there was no night, the system would be disrupted and there would be unrest everywhere and in everyone's lives. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this arrangement that during the daytime you work and during the nighttime you rest. So in order to rest, you need a place to rest and you need a time to rest. So a place, you find a home, you find a dwelling, you find some place where you will rest. And the time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has automatically programmed this in your brain that you should have your sleep at nighttime. So majority of people in this world, they sleep at nighttime. This is when everything calms down. This is when everything is quiet. And this is when everyone gets to sleep. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts that system in place. And this is pre-programmed in our brains. That night is made for rest and day is made for work. And Allah has repeatedly made that clear in Quran as well. Here as well, Allah said, وَجَعَلَ اللَّيْلَ سَكَنًا. Allah made the night a time for rest. وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ حُسْبَانًا. And Allah made the sun and the moon as a source of reckoning, as a source of accounting. So we have two calendars in this world. We have a solar calendar and we have a lunar calendar. The solar calendar is also accurate and the lunar calendar is also accurate. So you can depend on solar calendar as well. However, when it comes to certain aspects of Sharia, certain ibadat, then we are asked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to go with the lunar calendar. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. That these lunar dates, the first of the lunar month and the 10th of the lunar month, they are the days set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the timings of Hajj, for the timings of fasting, for the timings of Eid, and for the timings of Iddah for women. So Islamic dates, which are lunar calculations, those dates are the ones that should be observed in matters of religious concern, and in matters of worldly concern, other calendar can also be used, which is the solar calendar, also known as the Gregorian calendar. So Allah has made it possible for us to use the sun's movement as a way of calculating our days and our months, and also the lunar movement as a way of calculating our days and our months. Lunar is easier because every day the moon is going through a different phase. So on the first, it will be very thin. On the second day, it will be a little bit bigger. On the third day, it will be a little bit bigger. And then it gradually keeps growing until on the 14th or 15th, it becomes full. And then the next day, it starts going down again. It starts getting smaller and smaller, dimmer and dimmer, until the end of the month comes and then it disappears. So for a layman, it is easier to calculate days, weeks, and months with the lunar calculation than the sun. Because sun has a set time to rise every day and to set every day. We don't know by looking at the sun that today is the January 1st or the February 1st. By looking at the moon, you can tell today is either the 3rd of the month or the 4th of the month or the 5th of the month or the 14th of the month. By looking at the moon. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it is more convenient for people to go by the lunar calculation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made our sharia go by the lunar calculation. But if the system is there where we can rely on solar calendar as well, then that's also permissible. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. And it is possible because the sun and the moon have a very, very precise, predetermined movement. The sun does not go faster than it is supposed to, and it does not go slower than it is supposed to. Likewise, the moon does not go faster than it is supposed to, and it does not go slower than it is supposed to. So their movement is very precisely calculated. You can never find an increase in the speed in the movement of sun or the moon, or even a decrease in the movement of sun and the moon. If you were to find even the slightest increase or decrease in the movement of sun or the moon, something will happen, and that will be like an apocalypse. ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. This is the design of the one who is the Almighty and the All-Knowing. وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ النُّجُومَ لِتَهْتَدُوا بِهَا. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining to us the signs in space, the morning and the night, and how it happens, how the morning comes in, how the night comes in, and how it happened, and then the sun and the moon. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking us to the stars. وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ النُّجُومَ. It is Him, Allah. It is Allah who made for you the stars, all the stars. And in Arabic language, especially in terms of the Quranic verses, when the word nujum is mentioned, in those times, Arabs understood nujum to be a combination of stars and planets. They did not have a way at that time to distinguish a planet from a star. And that's how a layman looks at things as well. A common person would look at the sky and he would count everything as a star. He would not be able to tell, because of the distance that we have between us and the planets and the stars, that this is a planet and this is a star. By the way, with the naked eye, we can only see a few planets even from our own solar system, let alone the planets that exist in other solar systems, in other star systems. Within our own solar system, we can only see Mercury, we can see Mars, and we can see Jupiter. Sometimes we can see Venus, and we can never see Uranus and other planets that are in the outer layers of the solar system. So with the naked eye, we can only see few things, and even with that, we can never tell whether something that's glowing in the sky, that's bright in the sky at nighttime, whether it's a star or it's a planet. And nowadays, since the planes are also flying in the sky, so we can't even tell whether that plane is a plane or it's a planet or a star, because the distance is too much. وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ لَكُمُ النُّجُومَ. Allah is the one who made for you the stars. لِتَهْتَدُوا بِهَا فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. So you may receive guidance through those stars, navigation through the stars in the darkness of land and the sea. At nighttime, nowadays, alhamdulillah, we have navigation, but even navigations are dependent on the satellites that we have in the sky. So again, the same concept, and the satellites use the same concept as well. They take guidance from the stars. So ultimately, we're still depending on the stars. But in those days, when people had no other form of navigation, especially at nighttime, they would look above they would look at the sky and they would know the exact positions of particular stars, and that would allow them to follow a specific path to a destination. So they would look at the North Star and determine that if they want to go north, they should follow that direction, and it will lead them there. If they wanted to go south, they would set a certain star as the point in the south, and they would follow that, and it will take them there. And in ocean, obviously, there are no marks, there are no land points. Therefore, the only thing that you can depend on, if you don't have the navigation, if you don't have the compass, is the stars. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, that Allah is the one who made stars for you, so you may get guidance, navigational guidance in darkness of land and the sea. قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمِ يَعْلَمُونَ. We have explained these ayat, we elaborate these ayat for those people who know. وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنْشَأَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ. Allah is the one who created all of you from one soul, from one person, and that is Adam alayhi salam. Even Hawa alayhi salam was created from Adam alayhi salam. فَمُسْتَقَرٌ وَمُسْتَوْدَعٌ. Then there are some who are dwelling, and there are some who are moving. These two words, mustaqar and mustawda, have been explained differently by many scholars. Some say the word mustaqar means the life of this world, and mustawda means the life of the hereafter. Some say mustaqar means the life of the akhirah, and mustawda means the life of this world. Mustaqar means where you have a permanent residence, a permanent place. So depending on how you view things, so people have explained these two words differently. So the literal meaning of mustaqar is where you have a permanent place, a permanent station. And mustawda means where you have a temporary station. So the life of this world is temporary, so maybe this world is mustawda, and the akhirah is permanent, and the akhirah is permanent. Some say the life of this world is mustaqar and the grave is mustawda, because grave is a transition point. We stay in the grave for whatever many years, and then when the day of judgment comes, we will be moving from grave to the next stage. So grave is mustawda, where we'll be there temporarily. And some say that mustaqar is actually the life of this world, and mustawda is the life that every child spends in the womb of their mother. Because in the womb of their mother, you're there temporarily for 9 months or a little less or a little more, and then you're out of there. So that time is maybe mustawda. So different explanations have been given on these two words of the ayah. قَدْ فَصَّلْنَا الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَفْقَهُونَ. We elaborate these ayat for those people who understand. وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. Allah is the one who sent down water, rain from the above, from heaven. فَأَخْرَجْنَا بِهِ نَبَاتَ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. And with this rain, we brought forth the fruits, the plantation and vegetation of everything. The grass comes from there, plants come from there, fruits come from there, everything grows from water, from above. فَأَخْرَجْنَا مِنْهُ خَضِرًا. We bring forth from there the greenery. نُخْرِجُ مِنْهُ حَبًّا. And from there we bring forth the grain, مُتَرَاكِبًا, which is above each other. وَمِنَ النَّخْلِ. And if you see the grains, you see they are stuck to each other, and one on top of the other, one on top of the other. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مُتَرَاكِبًا. They're riding on each other. وَمِنَ النَّخْلِ مِنْ طَلْعِهَا قِنْوَانٌ دَانِيَةٌ وَجَنَّاتٍ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. Then Allah says, from the palm trees, from their spathes come forth the low-hanging bunches. قِنْوَانٌ دَانِيَةٌ وَجَنَّاتٍ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. And we produce the vineyards and the olive and the pomegranate, the gardens of olive and the pomegranate. مُشْتَبِهًا وَغَيْرَ مُتَشَابِهٍ. Either similar or not similar to each other. انظُرُوا إِلَى ثَمَرِهِ. Look at its fruit when it bears fruit, وَيَنْعِي, and its ripening, how it ripens. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكُمْ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Surely in this there are signs for those who believe. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Any questions? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. اللهم صل وسلم على عبدك ورسولك. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد أفضل صلواتك وعلى معلوماتك. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعافية والغنى. اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان واجعلنا من الراشدين. اللهم استر عوراتنا وآمن روعاتنا. اللهم احفظنا من بين أيدينا ومن خلفنا وعن يميننا وعن شمالنا ومن فوقنا وأن نغتال من تحتنا. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
For the true dawn, and further we have different angles. What is that about? Like, you know how we have different calculation methods?
Yeah.
So why is that different for true dawn?
Yeah, so with the true dawn, the different angles are actually so that's where the problem is with those different angles, the degrees. Some people say that they have observed it at 18 degrees. Some say they have observed at 17 degrees. Some say they have observed at 15 degrees. So from location to location it changes. There's no set degree. There's no universal degree that can be described as the degree for the time of Fajr. So in higher latitude, the times vary greatly. So in winter, the night is very short in higher latitude, like where we live. And in summer, the nights are very long and the days are very short. In those latitudes that are closer to equator, the day and the night is more normal and more average. So the day will be on average maybe 12 hours or 13 or 14. Likewise, in winter the night will be maybe 12 hours, 13 or 14. So there won't be too much variation in night and day. When you are living closer to equator and you're not in a higher latitude. But when you're in a higher latitude, then these differences come up. So those degrees that have been adopted as calculation methods by different softwares, those degrees are suggested by different people. Someone who's living, let's say in Saudi Arabia, he suggested that it is 18 degrees. Now you cannot take that for a place that is in a higher latitude like North America or England or Turkey. Those places are in north and in higher latitude. So the day and the night are not as normal as they are in Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is closer to equator, and other countries in Africa, in Asia, those which are closer to equator. So things are normal over there. So there's not a lot of variation in terms of day and night. When you get farther from equator, either going south or north, then the day and the night, it varies greatly in terms of its length. So the nights will become very long in winter, and the days will become very short. And likewise, in summer, the nights will become very short and days will become very long. So those degrees are actually suggested by different experts, different scholars. But the reality is that you should go by local observation. And the unfortunate case is that we don't have a comprehensive data of local observations. People have not yet made effort to make local observations. Once we have a comprehensive data of all year round, every day of the month of January, every day of the month, because when it comes to the sun's movement, they don't change. Every year you can go with the same time. If Fajr starts, let's say at 5 o'clock on the first day of January 2013, it will be same thing January of 2014. It will be same thing of January 2015. So if you have 1 year's observational data, you can use that as the actual data, and you can incorporate that into a software, and then you can rely on that for the rest of the life. Not just for the rest of 5 years or 10 years, but for the rest of the life. That's the difference. Exactly.